Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
You know what, I was thinking that we could do this on Zoom, but just use a free account for that.
I'm already live on YouTube.
So this is getting recorded on YouTube?
Yes, I don't know how good the quality will be because you are on the phone and I'm on YouTube with my computer.
Oh, okay, I see.
Mm.
Yeah, I was going to say, because if it continues, we might as well just use another account.
Yeah.
And I think we can.
Yes,
we
Prabhu.
can just use a free account. Yeah.
Yes, we could just set up something from a different account. Yeah.
Because this might happen in the future again, you know. Maybe we can do that for tomorrow.
I'm not sure with the free account if we will be able to live stream it on YouTube. I'm not sure.
I think I'm not sure about that. I think you can. I can investigate it. Okay, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter 20, verse 21, creation of the fourth order. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sati Rajo Rachitanjalir Harim. Ilokitum Nasakat Asru Lochana. Na Kinchano Vacha Sabaspa Diklavo Rito Pangu Yamun Adad Avastita. Translation. The original king Maharaj Prithu, his eyes full of tears and his voice faltering and choked up, could neither see the Lord very distinctly nor speak to address the Lord in any way. He simply embraced the Lord within his heart and remained standing in that way with folded hands. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Just as Krishna is addressed in the Brahma Samhita as Adi Purush, the original personality, so King Prithu, being an empowered incarnation of the Lord, is referred to in this verse as Adi Raj, the original or ideal king. He was a great devotee and at the same time a great hero who conquered over all undesirable elements in his kingdom. He was so powerful that he was equal in fighting to Indra, the king of heaven. He gave protection to his citizens, keeping them engaged in pious activities and devotion to the Lord. He did not collect a single cent of taxes from the citizens without being able to give them protection from all calamities. The greatest calamity in life is to become godless and therefore sinful. If the head of state or king allows the citizens to become sinful by indulging in illicit sex life, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, then the king is responsible and he has to suffer the resultant sequence of reactions for the sinful lives of the citizens because he levied taxes on them unnecessarily. These are the principles for a ruling power, and because Maharaj Prithu observed all the principles for a ruling chief, he is referred to here as Adi Raj. Even a responsible king like Maharaj Prithu could become a pure devotee of the first order. Can become a pure devotee of the first order. We can distinctly see from King Prithu's behavior Now he became ecstatic both externally and internally in pure devotional service. Just today, we have seen in the newspapers of Bombay that the government is going to repeal its prohibition laws. Even since Gandhi's non-cooperation movement, Bombay has been kept dry and not allowed its citizens to drink. But unfortunately, the citizens are so clever that they have increased illicit distillation of liquor, and although not being sold publicly in shops, liquor is being sold in public lavatories and similar abnormal places. Unable to check such illicit smuggling, the government has decided to manufacture the liquor at cheaper prices so that people can have their supply of intoxication directly from the government instead of purchasing it in public lavatories. The government failed to change the hearts of the citizens from indulging in sinful life. So instead of losing the taxes they collect to inflate the treasury, they decided to manufacture liquor to supply to the citizens who hanker after it. This kind of government cannot check the resultant actions love, namely war, pestilence, famine, earthquakes, and similar other disturbances. Nature's law is that as soon as there is discrepancies in regard to the law of God, which is described in Bhagavad Gita as dharmasya glani, or disobedient to the laws of nature or God, and once there will be heavy punishment in the form of sudden outbreaks of war. We have recently experienced a war between India and Pakistan. Within 14 days, there have been immense losses of men and money, and there have been disturbances to the entire world. These are the reactions of sinful life. The Krishna conscious movement is meant to make people pure and perfect. If we become even partially pure, as described in the Bhagavatam, nasta prayeshu abhateshru, by development of Krishna consciousness, then lust and greed, the material diseases of the citizens, will be reduced. This can be made simply by broadcasting the pure message of Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna consciousness. Big commercial and industrial firms have contributed many thousands of rupees to a defense fund that burns the money in the form of gunpowder. But unfortunately, if they are asked to contribute liberally to advance the Krishna consciousness movement, they are reluctant. Under the circumstances, the world will periodically suffer from such upsurges and outbreaks of war, which is the consequences of not being Krishna conscious. So quite an extensive purport here, and the description here of Maharaj Prithu, he's choked up with a faltering voice because he's in ecstasy, that the Lord's actually standing in front of him. And so he couldn't speak or say anything to the Lord. And he just stood there looking at him with folded hands, embracing him in his heart, because he was just ecstatic, had ecstatic symptoms. But this is a real leader, A real leader is a pure devotee, or an advanced devotee. And this is the example given by, in the purport here is given, that Adi Raj, the ideal king, is a great devotee, means a great devotee, or ideal king. That's what it means. It means great devotee. It doesn't mean someone who's great at organizing things or is a good manager, or ideal king means great devotee. So Maharaj Prithu was a great example of this, and he followed everything very strictly. He observed all the principles for a ruler, and he did everything properly. So in that way, he was free from the reactions of the sinful activities of the citizens. But as Prabhupada says, today in India, things are really going by the wayside. Previously Bombay was completely prohibition was the law there. There was no alcohol sold commercially. And then instead of actually, inspiring the people to take up spiritual life instead, they just start selling it. And same with other things these days also. Some, marijuana, for instance, now is like, they just gave up on that and just said, well, we'll just start selling it. We might as well make some taxes from it. So this is what happens, they don't, the leaders don't inspire the people to become spiritual. They just give in to the sinful activities of the people, who are, lost in their sinful activities, intoxication especially. And so that's what happened. The government goes along with these sinful activities. It encourages people to take part in these sinful activities. Illicit sex, gambling. They've all been legalized. All the sinful activities have been legalized in the world, and now intoxication. So we've got all the false sinful activities have been legalized in the world, and so that means the governments are promoting this. And the result of all that is that we have war between nations. Wars, unnecessary wars, and that's the result. If a government doesn't inspire the people to become spiritual on some level, then the result is we have these horrible wars. Lots of money is spent, a lot of lives are lost, and there's a lot of disturbances. Prabhupada mentions here that even though it was only 14 days, the war, there was a lot of disturbances to the entire world, not just between India and Pakistan. So you can see that the world gets affected by this also, the simple activities of the people. The world gets disturbed by that. We see climate change, we see, all these things that have been predicted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, pestilence, outbreaks of disease. We've seen COVID recently. We see wars, big wars, a lot of money spent, a lot of lives lost, and disease and flooding and fires and all the rest of it. So this is what happens. This is why these things are happening in the world, because of the simple activities of the people. And because the governments are encouraging them to do that, then that just keeps increasing, and it will just keep increasing. And that's the way it's meant to be in Kali Yuga, that the sinful activities of the people will just keep increasing because the governments are doing nothing about it. And he also says here that, commercial businesses and industrial firms have contributed to the defense fund for the government. And but they won't donate towards the Krishna conscious movement. They're reluctant to do that. And so as long as we just have to keep preaching to these people and convincing them that this is the answer to the world's problems. We have to promote Krishna consciousness and spread this spiritual life around the world and inspire people to become like this. Otherwise, as Prabhupada says here, the world will periodically suffer from such upsurges and outbreaks of war. So that's what's going to happen. It'll just continue like that. And that's the Kali Yuga, and that's the battle between the Golden Age and the Kali Yuga. Is that in the Golden Age, the devotees are trying to promote spiritual life and convince people to take up the chanting of the holy names, for instance, or even just to take prasadam or read the philosophy. And Kali, who's getting people to take intoxication, and there's so many horrible situations that people have to suffer in due to the influence of Kali in this age. People are just so disturbed by what's going on in the world. They can't do anything else except for take drugs, for instance, or become drunkards, become alcoholic, and that's why we have these problems in the world. People just don't know what to do, so they just turn to these easy solutions, and then in that way, those simple activities build up, and then we have wars and we have all sorts of disturbances, earthquakes. We saw in Japan the nuclear plant, just incredible disasters. So that's why we have to keep promoting spiritual life in society, and we have to keep telling people about the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and keep inspiring people to take up spiritual life. Otherwise, the future is very dark, as Prabhupada would say many times. The future is very dark for these people. Okay, I think that's about all I can think of to say about this verse, unless someone else has got something to say.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing. And Prabhupada makes like very important points in this verse, and you brought it out very nicely. So, as you were sharing, something that was coming to my mind was to actually take up spiritual life is not so easy. It's when it requires practice, just like anything else that we do in our life. And the government is in varnashram system. The government is supposed to be um, taking care of some of the like it's the government is supposed to promote religious life and support religious life through our ashram system, but unfortunately um, that's not the case. So yeah, that was what was coming to my mind, like, to take up spiritual life, it requires cultivation. Prabhus, can you, Mataji's, please can you mute yourself? We can hear a lot of background noise. Thank you so much. That's all I had to say. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you. All right. Okay, will we continue to the next verse then? Does someone else want to read that? Would you like to read that?
Yeah, Ruchi Mataji is also on the call. I see Premarasa is on the call. So, Ruchi Mataji, would you like to read? Thank you. Thank you, Ruchi Mataji, for joining. It's nice to have you. Text 22. Athavam Strukala Vilokyan Atripta Trika Kochara Ahapurusham Padasprishantam Kshittim Amsa Unnate Vinyasta Hastagram Urangavidvisha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead stood with his lotus feet almost touching the ground while he rested the front of his hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, the enemy of the snakes. Maharaj Prithu, wiping the tears from his eyes, tried to look upon the Lord, but it appeared that the king was not fully satisfied by looking at him. Thus the king offered the following prayers. Purport. The significant point in this verse is that the Lord was standing above the ground, almost touching it. The residents of the upper planetary systems, beginning from Brahmaloka, the planet where Lord Brahma lives, down to Swargaloka, the heavenly planet of Indra, are so advanced in spiritual life that when they come to visit this or similar other lower planetary systems, they keep their weightlessness. This means that they can stand without touching the ground. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because he lives in one of the planetary systems within this universe, he sometimes plays as if one of the demigods of this universe. When he first appeared before Prithu Maharaj, he was not touching the ground of this earth. But when he was fully satisfied with the behavior and character of Maharaj Prithu, he immediately acted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan from Vaikuntha. Out of affection for Prithu Maharaj, he touched the earth, but he rested the front of his hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, his carrier, as if to prevent himself from falling down. Since the Lord is not accustomed to stand on earthly ground, these are all symptoms of his great affection for Prithu Maharaj. Perceiving his fortunate position, Prithu Maharaj could not fully look upon the Lord due to ecstasy, but still, in a faltering voice, he began to offer prayers. So, this whole purport is basically describing the reciprocation of the Lord with his pure devotee, Prithu Maharaj. So, um, this is an interesting purport where Prabhupada is saying that the Supreme Lord and other demigods, when they come to the earthly planet, they do not touch the ground. And there are actually similar pastimes with Srila Prabhupada where devotees have described that Prabhupada did not touch the ground in some sense. And I think there was a pastime with Yamuna Mataji. She was a disciple of Prabhupada, and she passed away a few years ago. And in one of her books, actually, she writes that Prabhupada was once walking on the beach in Bombay. Uh, and Yamuna Mataji, she was thinking, oh, I should follow the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. So wherever Prabhupada was keeping his feet, she wanted to actually keep her feet in the same place and walk behind him. And as she was trying to do that, she noticed that actually when Prabhupada was walking, he didn't leave any footprints for her to trace. So here there is this narration in the purport that when demigods actually they come to visit lower planetary systems like the earth, they don't have to put their feet on the earth. They can stand without touching the ground. So that's quite amazing. And the ground actually is the resting place of all the mortal beings. It's hard to imagine somebody not putting their feet on the ground forever, but it's possible for the demigods, and certainly it was possible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he didn't touch. Prabhupada writes that he didn't touch the ground at first, but by seeing and becoming fully satisfied by the behavior and character of Maharaj Prithu, he touched his feet to the ground, but he also rested his hand on Garuda, the bird carrier of the Supreme Lord. And it actually, this is actually, it also relates to Krishna's pastimes. I'm thinking of Krishna's pastimes by reading this. When Krishna was about to leave the planet, or he actually left the planet, then Mother Earth was extremely sad, because until then Krishna was actually very affectionately putting his feet on Mother Earth, and by the purifying touch of the Lord, everything was blossoming. everything was pure, everything was perfect, everything was had life, was full of life by the presence of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna can do whatever he likes. He can hide himself from us, if we want to stay away from Krishna and not serve him, or he can actually reciprocate with us in unimaginable ways. So all this is actually possible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as devotees, in order to attract the mercy of the Supreme Lord, um, we 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 have to pray that we can exhibit um, good behavior and character. So this actually we can see even among devotees. If a particular devotee is very gentle, very kind to us, very loving, very affectionate, we become drawn to them because of their character and because of their behavior. So similarly, this quality of being drawn to good character and good behavior is coming to us from the Supreme Lord. As above, so below. So if we as mortal beings are attracted to very affectionate behavior and ways of living um, of other devotees, other human beings, even animals, if they are kind and loving, we get attracted even to animals, what to speak of people. So the same thing actually applies for us also in relation to the Supreme Lord. If our character and behavior is pure, if we pray that it becomes pure, and we can be loving and gentle towards other human beings and animals, then that attracts the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So yeah, here we can see that the Lord was so fully satisfied with the behavior and character of Maharaj Prithu. So that's what I gathered. And if anybody would like to add something, please share.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's quite amazing to see that the Lord is not accustomed to standing on the earthly ground. You would think, the Lord, he'd be accustomed to anything because it's all his energy. But in this pastime, he's not accustomed to standing on earthly ground, so he's doing that because he's pleased with Maharaj Prithu. But it's amazing how the Lord can be like that for his devotees. He can, even though he's not accustomed to something, and you would think that he would be because he's the Supreme Lord, but he can actually take that position of not being accustomed to something and then actually doing that thing for his devotee. He'll stand on the ground and put his hand on the shoulder of Garuda as if to sort of steady himself. It's quite amazing that the Lord can take these positions just to please his devotee, to reciprocate. Okay, shall we move to the next verse, or
The next verse is also a short verse. So if Srimati Mataji has joined, so if she would like to read the next one,
okay,
it's short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not before my computer. Can you all just read? I'll just listen. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. That's fine. So Prabhu, would you like to read?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so verse 23. Pritur Ruvacha Varan Vibot Varadesha Varad Buddha Katam Vrinite Guna Vikrayat Manam Yanarakanam Api Santi Dehinam Tan Isha Kavalia Pate Rine Nacha. Translation. My dear Lord, you are the best of the demigods who can offer benedictions. Why, therefore, should any learned person ask you for benedictions meant for living entities bewildered by the modes of nature? Such benedictions are available automatically even in the lives of living entities suffering in hellish conditions. My dear Lord, you can certainly bestow merging into your existence, but I do not wish to have such a benediction. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. There are different kinds of benedictions according to a person's demands. For karmis, the best benediction is promotion to the higher planetary systems, where the duration of life is very very long, and the standard of living and happiness is very high. There are others, namely Gyanis and Yogis, who want the benediction of merging into the existence of the Lord. This is called Kaivalya. The Lord is therefore addressed as Kaivalya Pati, the master or Lord of the benediction known as Kaivalya. But devotees receive a different type of benediction from the Lord. According to devotees, Kaivalya, or merging into the existence of the Lord, is considered as good as hell. The word Naraka means hell. Similarly, everyone who exists in this material world is called Naraka because his existence is this material existence itself is known as a hellish condition of life. Prithu Maharaj, however, expressed that he was interested neither in the benediction desired by the karmis nor that desired by the Gyanis and Yogis. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Prabhu, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, described that Kaivalya is no better than a hellish condition of life. And as for the delights of heavenly planets, they are factually will-o'-the-wisps or phantasmagoria. They are not wanted by devotees. Devotees do not even care for the positions held by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor does a devotee desire to become equal with Lord Vishnu. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Prithu Maharaj made his position very clear. So a very nice verse, this one. This is the beginning of the prayers of Prithu Maharaj. And he's saying that, why would we want the benedictions given by the demigods? Even these benedictions are automatically available to those living in hellish conditions. And, especially merging into the existence of the Lord, that's like, for a devotee, that's spiritual suicide, Prabhupada said. So, it's a horrible situation because you merge into nothingness and you don't have any relationship. You just exist, basically. And that's it. There's nothing else. There's no pleasure. There's no relationship. There's nothing. So that for the devotee is, suicide because you're giving away all that opportunity to have spiritual pleasure and have a relationship with the Lord. So a devotee is not interested in any of those things. What to speak of the material benefits given by the demigods, the benedictions given by the demigods that are available to anyone, practically. And the heavenly planets, Prabhupada says, the will of the wisp or phantasmagoria. And, that's the position of life in the heavenly planets is very, very opulent and very pleasant, materially speaking. And the word phantasmagoria is it's like a like a fantasy, it's like a fantasy world. It's not a real. It's not a real situation. It's like an illusion, an illusory situation where you think that you're enjoying, but you're not really enjoying. You're just using up your good karmic reactions, and it's constantly changing. Also, it's shifting. It's a shifting situation. So that's why Prabhupada uses the will of the wisp. The wisp is like like smoke or steam. It just comes and goes, and it's always moving around and changing, and it disappears and then reappears, and so it's a very good description of what the heavenly planet is offering. It's just a temporary shifting situation, and there's some pleasure for some material pleasure for some time, and then you have to come back down again once your karmic credits are used up. So, and devotees don't even want the positions of very high, positions like Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or any of these positions. He doesn't want any of that, or to become equal with the Lord. He doesn't want position. He just wants to love the Lord. And so if you want to love someone, you don't want to be on an equal level with them, and you don't want to, you don't want to be with anyone else except for them, and you want to experience the relationship with them, the different dynamics of the relationship. You want to have that, but just with them. So why would you be distracted by all these other things, like going to another place to enjoy in another situation, rather than being with the person? So it kind of gives you an idea of the selfishness of that you'd rather be on the heavenly planets and be with the Lord, And when you think about that, it's kind of a type of madness, It's a material madness that we think rivers of mango juice and mountains of chocolate and, unlimited this and that and the next thing. All these things seem very attractive materially speaking, but once you taste the nectar of spiritual life and you taste the Lord's spiritual energy, nothing comes close to it. There's no comparison between them. And, it's not a bad position. Although a devotee can take positions, he'll take a position if he needs to. But he doesn't really care about that. But he'll do it out of duty, to please the Lord. He'll take a position, for instance, a ruler or a king or something, because it's his duty to do that. And, it's the system that we follow. We have to have a ruler. We have to have all these systems in place to organize spiritual life. We need all that. And that's why Prabhupada, he created ISKCON and a managerial system to organize the spiritual activities, because that needs to be there. And Vairashram Dham needs to be there also, needs to be established. So, a real devotee won't want to be a manager or the leader of something. He's quite happy just to serve the Lord in any capacity, even just cleaning the temple room or, serving the devotees. He's happy just doing that. But for the sake of the Lord, he will take a position if he needs to, but he will be reluctant to do that. Okay, I think that's all I can say about that. And it's getting quite late now, so
yeah,
maybe
perhaps
we should finish up.
Sure. And
I was
thank you so
actually
much.
thinking this is not a bad idea, having this call on WhatsApp, because we can actually invite more people to the group and have group calls. It's not a bad idea. Call everybody at one time. It's quite a good idea. And it seems to be working on YouTube, okay? So maybe this is okay.
We can't read on the screen, because we have to see what verse it is, and then
Oh yeah, there's no screen sharing. That's quite. Yeah.
Perhaps there is a way to do it. We have to find out how to do it on YouTube.
There could be a way of doing it on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Maybe if you can send the link of the variables of the verse we are reading that day, that will be much easier. So we know which verse we are on.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, that's good. We can do that. Because I was thinking that if we invite more people to this group through Facebook or something else, and when you have the call, it calls everybody. So we might get more people coming along, more devotees involved. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, so should we end for today?
Yeah, I think it's getting pretty late now.
Yeah. Thank you all very much for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, my health is getting better, and on Sunday we are planning to leave. So Saturday, Sunday I can take Mangala Aarti, if possible, or you can give me any Aarti. I can take some Mangala breakfast or Aarti, whatever you feel good. How many Aartis you want to give, you can give me. Okay, Mataji. So if you have any vacancy available Saturday, Sunday, I'm happy. I'm happy to take Mangala. I'm happy to take Gaura Aarti also. I'm happy to take whatever Aarti you want to give me. Hare Krishna, Mataji. We are living Sunday